Do y'all be getting nervous or anxious when you got to talk to somebody who is a different race? Do you feel like you got to switch up your voice or your tone or your accent to be professional or to fit in with the crowd? Yeah, let's talk about it. Hey, y'all, it's Dr. Ashley Gaddy Robbins. Welcome back to Classroom Chronicles. This is where I debrief my class, interracial communication, and talk about what happened in class that day and also teach a little bit as we go. And today we are going and diving into communication theories that help us to communicate with people who are a different race than us. We have anxiety uncertainty management theory. We have communication accommodation theory. We have conflict-based negotiation theory. What does all of that mean? Let's break it down. So, anxiety uncertainty management theory basically says this is what we know, right? We get anxious at the thought of talking to someone who is different than us. And because this is an interracial communication course, we focus on race. When we got to talk to people who are a different race than us, our heart rate go up, we start getting clammy, we start getting anxious, thoughts start to fill our mind, right? Because we are anxious over the perceived conversation, what could go down. And we are uncertain about them and the conversation. And so now we are hyped up. We are hyper alert, right? We are anxious. We are uncertain. And most people would just leave the conversation alone. But anxiety uncertainty management theory says this, right? The reason why, especially around race, that we are anxious is for two reasons. One, it's difference, right? It's the unknown. You're uncertain about how this is going to go. But most importantly, though, the reason why we are anxious is because we are connecting the stereotypes and perceptions about that other person. Black people they gonna act like this. White folks gonna act like this. Latinx folks gonna respond like this. Asian folks, biracial folks, multiracial folks. However we look at it, we've been socialized that different races have different labels. And so now we start putting these stereotypes in our head and projecting that on the other person. And this ain't just white folks talking to black and brown folks. This is black and brown folks also thinking about white folks. These theories go every which way. So now, right now, we don't even want to talk. We rather avoid. We rather hide than have it to push through our discomfort and our uncertainty and our doubt to actually talk to someone who is different than us. But anxiety management theory says we can. There are 3 factors that allow to help us manage our anxiety. And this is what I think allowed for my students to breathe a little bit, because a lot of them are like, yeah, that's me. For real, if we being honest. Not only am I anxious and to talk with people who are different than me, I'm anxious to talk about race altogether, right? But we talked about white fragility, we talked about unpacking whiteness. So, one, you got to have some want to. You got to have some motivation to be able to want to talk to somebody who is different. And for some of us, if we're being honest, we stop right there. I don't even want to. But if we're thinking about community, if we're thinking about a team, if we're thinking about a council, a sorority, a group, again, these are college students. If you're thinking about a group project, there is a time where people who are different are going to have to be together. And so you're going to have motivation for the success of that group. Not just that, it should be more motivation than that. But again, we start small. To be able to want to have these conversations. And that's going to allow you, I'm struggling. That's going to allow you to then be able to talk to somebody. The second thing is a knowledge factor. Having more knowledge on the communities that are different than you, the identities that are different than you. That's why I love teaching this class, because this class gives them so much that they've never heard of. And so it builds a little more confidence when you know a little bit more. And the third thing is you got to just practice. It's repetition. The more that you talk to people who are different than you, the more that you listen to them, the more that you bring them in, the more able you are going to be able to navigate these conversations. And you're going to get less and less anxious each time. And I told them it's a privilege to be able to be silent and walk away when it comes to racial conversations, right? That's privilege even within that. Black and brown folks don't have the ability to not engage in racial conversations. Even if they never open their mouth, people are asking them where they're really from. People are assuming things about how they speak, right? So we even have to acknowledge the privilege in even being able to walk away and not say anything. So we can move past being anxious and doubtful. Then we talked about communication accommodation theory, aka code switching. Y'all know it. Y'all heard it. Okay. Communication accommodation theory is like the formal term. And it's when you switch up aspects of your language, your accent, your dialect, your volume, your tone, your gestures, your attire, your artifacts in order to have a sense of belonging. Convergence is when you change aspects of yourself to fit the other person's group. And what does that mean in a race conversation? That means that when we are thinking about let's talk for both perspectives, right? Black and brown folks have to talk proper, talk white. They have to straighten their hair. They have to do all of these things, especially in the name of professionalism. Because power has made a standard. Power has made the rules and the norms. And in order to be seen as normal, in order for you to belong, you have to fit within those rules. So code switching says this is proper English. So you cannot have any slang. You can't have any accent. You can't come in here with your dialect. Therefore, Black and brown folks feel like they have to talk like this. Hello, my name is Ashley Gaddy. I'm so happy to be here. Their phone voice. Y'all ever seen y'all parent, y'all caretaker, or auntie or whomever switch it up on the phone? They weren't talking to you like that, but now they're like, hello. Yeah. Convergence. And we took in the depth of that, of how exhausting and taxing that can be for people to try to change aspects of themselves to fit into these standards that, in this case, racism, white supremacy has created. And then we talked about it the other way around, right? We talked about how white people will literally try to change aspects of how they talk to fit in with black and brown communities. You talk how you talk, but when you get around a black person, you feel like you'd be like, "What up, bruh? Hey, girl." Or it's like you don't talk like that. Why you start acting and talking like that when you come around us? Black and brown folks, when you know when that's not genuine. You see what I'm saying? And that really did awaken. It was a wake up call for them, because they were like, "Oh shoot, I do that all the time." Or they didn't understand how taxing and exhausting it is for black and brown people who have to code switch, which is usually what's going on majority of the time, right? Power is always going to force people who have been put on the margins to do more. So I help them understand, like, yeah, we're talking about it from white people to black and brown folks, but what the problem is, what the issue is when black and brown people feel like they have to lose aspects of themselves to fit into standards and norms that whiteness has created. So if you're still here and listening to this conversation, then I want to encourage even you, right, to release aspects of code switching and communication accommodation theory to fit into what you think is what they want to hear and see. We have to disrupt what is normal, and we have to be authentic, and we have to create spaces for that. And then the last theory is one that none of them had really heard about, which is conflict-based negotiation theory. And I love this one because it's so deep. It says basically that folks care about their public image, but idea of image is different for different cultures. In individualistic cultures, ones like US, Western cultures, Europe, etc., in individualistic cultures, we are thinking about our own image. So we're self-face. And then there's other face. when people are really concerned about supporting and the burdens of other cultures. They really care about the other culture's image, right? And then we have mutual faith. Both parties are concerned about each other. And then we have communal faith. How are we concerned about our entire community, our entire identity? And two things that come out of this theory for interracial communication, right? Two things come out of it. One, most folks, when they talking to people and they thinking about what they gonna say and they thinking about how they gonna move, they only thinking about themselves. What is this gonna mean for me? What does this mean for my public image? And people will do anything to protect their public image. But collective cultures, or a lot of times, right, we think about Latinx cultures, Asian cultures, African cultures, even African American cultures, and way in which we are collective and thinking about family and unity and harmony and community, right? We also leave room for the other person. We are socialized and shaped to think about others. But if you're not even taking the time to think about the person that you're talking to who is different than you and their public image and what the impact is on them, then you are not even trying to build dialogue and community for real. So I told them, y'all got to think about stuff like that. And then the other side of it is more individualistic cultures are more dominating in conversations and the way in which they present themselves. More collective cultures have been socialized to be more compromising, right? I will adjust. I will adapt to you. And so when we think about these conversations, folks will say something like, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you speak in class? Why are you not speaking up for yourself? Well, communal cultures are thinking about their own public, the public image of others, their own public image is mutual, but they also got to be like, look, the moment I speak, stereotypes instantly come on me. It's easier for me to be quiet so that I don't rustle feathers or so that I'm not also seen as a stereotype. So I told my students, if you're not thinking about how a Black and brown person has to even think about when and how they communicate, then it's going to lead to assumptions. It's going to lead to assumptions that are just not beneficial. And then we broke out in rooms where they were able to share stories of themselves. Times when they were anxious, times where they had to code switch, times where it was real for them. This is where we really getting into practice, y'all, because this stuff affects our everyday conversations. We are anxious every single day. We switch up every single day depending on where we're going and who's in front of us. And we are either concerned about ourselves or we really are thinking about somebody else. All this stuff y'all got to be thought about through a racial lens, and all this stuff got to be thinking about when we are truly trying to be engaging with other people. So that was today's class. It was so good. They really walked away with so much knowledge. They were able to name how they feel and put a name to it and put theory to it. And we were able to get through some practice tips. So I hope this was helpful for you. We do part 2 next week, critical race theory. Y'all ready? But I appreciate y'all. If you're still on this video at the end of it, I appreciate you. Y'all have a good day. Like, comment, subscribe, follow Classroom Chronicles. Peace.